We take an in-depth look at the signings LA Kings GM Rob Blake has made on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. On today's episode of Locked On LA Kings, we look at the major signings for GM Rob Blake since he has taken over running the team. We also talk about the anniversary of Wayne Gretzky joining the LA Kings and give you a quick update on Kings prospects playing in the World Junior Championships, which started earlier today. My name is Eddie Garcia. I'm your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for almost 30 years, past 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network, where I'm a co-host, sidekick, reporter, NHL insider, also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 16 years, and a lifelong LA Kings fan. As we mentioned on Monday's show, GM Rob Blake was promoted to LA's general manager from assistant GM on April the 10th of 2017, taking over for Dean Lombardi. We talked on Monday about the major trades that Blake has made in his time as Kings general manager. Today, we're going to look at the major signings that he has made and talk a little bit about those. We're going to start on June 30th of 2018 when they signed defenseman Drew Doughty to an 8-year, $88 million contract extension. Doughty had won the Norris Trophy as the league's top defenseman 2 years prior, almost 2 years to the day that he signed this 8-year, $88 million deal. The 32-year-old now making $11 million per season, and he will do so for the next 5 more seasons as well. He's the second highest paid defenseman in the NHL right now behind the Sharks' Erik Karlsson. And Drew Doughty, kind of a polarizing guy, it seems a little bit amongst fans in the NHL who think he's overpaid. And is there an argument to be made that he is overpaid? Sure. $11 million per year is a lot of money for a guy who is not amongst the elite of the defensemen anymore. I mean, he's not Cale Makar, Miro Heiskanen, Adam Fox, Roman Josi. There are certainly defensemen out there who are making significantly less money than Drew Doughty. So the argument he's overpaid, I get it to an extent, but I also think as Kings fans, seeing Drew Doughty day in and day out, seeing what he brings to this team and this organization on and off the ice, it's still hard for me to say he's not worth the money. Again, like I said, you can make the argument he is overpaid based on what other players who would be considered better than him are making. But the fact that Drew Doughty still eats up minutes, the fact that he still plays in all situations, the fact that he's still such a great decision maker on the ice when he has the puck, when he's away from the ice. He's, sure, he's not as offensively gifted as some of those other guys that I mentioned, perhaps. But what he does, the whole package, everything that he brings to the table, he's still a very, very valuable asset, I think, to the LA Kings. He's a cornerstone player for them, one of the greatest defensemen who's ever played in a Kings sweater. He's number 8, is going to be in the rafters at Crypto.com Arena in the not too distant future. And he's one of the best defensemen of his era. So again, I get the argument that he's overpaid, but when you look at everything he brings to the table, I certainly would not look back as a Kings fan and say that 8-year, $88 million contract that he signed back in 2018 was a mistake. That is not the case in any way. So again, the argument is there, but I think Drew Doughty has been worth every penny for the LA Kings. We'll see how it plays out when he's in 3 years down the road, if he's still playing at the level he's playing at now, but he's certainly 32 years old. He's still of age. He still has some stuff left in the tank, I have no doubt. The next contract that Rob Blake dished out was July 1st of 2018 when they signed forward Ilya Kovalchuk to a 3-year, $18.75 million contract. Now, he would play 2 years in LA, a total of 81 games, so they really got one season as far as on-ice product from Ilya Kovalchuk. He finished with a total of 19 goals, 24 assists for 43 points. They ended up trading him to Montreal, and then that same season, Montreal traded him to Washington, and his career was over shortly thereafter. If you don't recall, Ilya Kovalchuk, a guy who at one point scored 50 goals a couple of times, scored 40 goals a couple of times, he was an elite goal scorer back in the day with the then Atlanta Thrashers and later the New Jersey Devils. And it seemed like his name always was swirling around with the LA Kings. Kind of like Jacob Chikrin with the Kings, if you want to put a more recent comparison on things. But every time it seemed like there was trade talks involving Ilya Kovalchuk, the Kings were always involved. Now, what ended up happening is that Kovalchuk left the NHL, played for several seasons in the KHL in Russia, I think 5 or 6 seasons, and then decided he wanted to come back to the NHL. And the Kings, like I said, they were always rumored to be in discussions to get him. And were able to sign him, and he had a couple of decent years in Russia, but the KHL isn't the NHL, and he was a shell of himself when he joined the LA Kings. So that trade obviously did not work out for Rob Blake and the LA Kings. On April 16th of 2019, this was not the signing of a player, but I'm gonna include it in the resume of Rob Blake when he signed Todd McClellan to be the next head coach of the LA Kings. He gave him a 5-year, $25 million contract. And I honestly don't recall what other coaching options there were out there for the LA Kings at the time. But Rob Blake hired a guy in his first coaching hire as general manager of the Kings that he knows very well. Rob Blake played for Todd McClellan when Todd McClellan was head coach of the San Jose Sharks. And he was very successful with the San Jose Sharks. He took them to the Western Conference Finals twice in 2010 and 2011. He won at least 50 games 3 times, had 3 Pacific Division titles in 7 seasons. So very successful in San Jose, even though they never won a Stanley Cup. He then moved on, did Todd McClellan to Edmonton, was not as successful there in parts of 4 seasons. And then his time in LA, he's now in his 3rd season, or just wrapped up his 3rd season as head coach of the Kings. The Kings have been improving every year since. And then, of course, last year culminated in the Kings making the playoffs for the first time under Todd McClellan and for the first time in 4 years. So I think it's been a very productive signing and hire for Rob Blake in bringing in Todd McClellan. Again, he hasn't won a Stanley Cup. He doesn't have that on his resume, but he's a very demanding coach, which I know Rob Blake said when he brought in his next head coach, he wanted to make sure it was a guy who was going to have very high standards and be very demanding. Again, his time in San Jose was very successful, and that's where Rob Blake knows him from. So I would say so far, going into year 4, I know the expectations are going to go up, and we'll see how it turns out. But I think the hiring of Todd McClellan by Rob Blake has been a positive on the resume for Rob Blake so far. A couple other quick signings to mention. September 11th of 2020, the Kings signed defenseman Sean Walker to a 4-year, $10.6 million contract. He makes $2.65 per season. And also on March 21st of 2021, the Kings signed defenseman Matt Roy, 3 years, $9.45 million. That's $3.15 million per season. A couple of very reliable, solid defensemen. The term is reasonable. The payout they're getting is very reasonable for those 2 guys. Unfortunately, Sean Walker's had some health issues, but a couple of just solid, good signings by Rob Blake, those 2 defensemen. April 12th of 2021, the Kings signed forward Alex Iafallo to a 4-year, $16 million extension. Now, looking at this deal and kind of the progression of what made the Kings have some faith in Alex Iafallo to give him that 4-year, $16 million extension. The first 2 years for Alex Iafallo with the Kings, he made less than $1 million, just under $1 million per year. He averaged 12 goals and 29 points in those 2 seasons. So then he got a raise to almost $2.5 million per season. And for the next 2 seasons of that contract, he had 17 goals and 43 points, and then was on pace during the COVID season for 19 goals and 44 points. So we're seeing a progression with Alex Iafallo year to year. And because of that, the Kings decided to invest in him on a 4-year, $16 million deal, $4 million per season, thinking that he would probably progress and get to around 20 goals or more and maybe around 50 points. Unfortunately, though, that did not happen for Alex Iafallo last year, and he was playing on the top line pretty much the whole season. He finished with 17 goals and 37 points in 79 games, so that was not what the Kings were hoping for or expecting from Alex Iafallo. And frankly, I don't see him improving on those numbers now that it looks like he will not be playing on the top line anymore. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I will be surprised if Alex Iafallo improves on those numbers from a year ago. Now that he's going to be playing likely on the 3rd line And now you're paying a guy on your third line $4 million a year. It's why he's been rumored to some extent in some trade talks. Don't know if that'll happen or not. I think he'll be a great third line winger. But at the same time, that contract so far in the very short term has not worked out, I don't think, for the LA Kings. July 28th of 2021, the Kings signed forward Philip Deneau, 6 years, $33 million, $5.5 million per season. His first year in LA was absolutely spectacular. 27 goals, new career high, 51 points last season, and I thought he was the Kings MVP last year. You could play him in any situation, good in the faceoff circle, very responsible defensively, then chipping in the offense. Having a solid number 2 center behind Anze Kopitar is something the Kings sorely needed, and they absolutely got in Philip Deneau. Great signing there by Rob Blake. On July 24th, 2021, the Kings signed forward Trevor Moore, 2 years, $3.75 million, making just $1.875 million per season. 81 games last year, career high 17 goals and 48 points. Another season like that, and I think Trevor Moore will be in line for a decent raise. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent after this season. But the first time Trevor Moore gets some significant playing time, playing on the second line with Victor Arvidsson and Philip Deneau, mostly with Philip Deneau. Arvidsson had the injuries. But a solid season for Trevor Moore, and looking for more of the same and hopefully maybe even a little bit more from Trevor Moore. But great signing for Rob Blake at a very, very low term. So hopefully more from Trevor Moore going forward. September 22nd of 2021, the Kings signed goalie Cal Peterson to a 3-year, $15 million extension. Now, he started out his career with the Kings on a 2-year deal, making just under $1 million per season. The first year of that deal, he was actually in the AHL. Year 2, played 11 games for the Kings, had a 5-4-1 record, 2.61 goals against average, and a .924 save percentage. They rewarded him with a 3-year deal, making just below $9 million per season. In 8 games in 2019-20, had a 5-3 record, a 2.64 goals against average, and a .922 save percentage. 35 games the following year, 9-18-5 was the record, 2.89 goals against average, and a .911 save percentage. They then decided to sign him, even though he had a year left on his contract, to a 3-year, $15 million extension that kicks in this season. Why they decided to do this, I'm not quite sure. It probably sounds like I'm a Cal Peterson hater. I'm really not. I'm just looking at what has he proven at this point for the Kings to have so much confidence in him that he's going to be the number 1 goalie, maybe this season, maybe next season. But they thought he was going to take the job and seize it last season, and that didn't happen. So after they give him the contract, 37 games, the record was certainly not bad, 20-14-2. But the goals against average was at 2.98, and the save percentage was under .900 at .895. His goals against average has gone up every year of his career, and his save percentage has gone down every year of his career. That is a trend that needs to change now for Cal Peterson. Again, they're paying him $5 million a year to be the backup, and that's not what you want to pay your backup goaltender in an ideal situation. I know it's not the ideal situation for the Kings with Jonathan Quick. They were trying to have some insurance against Jonathan Quick getting old quicker rather than later. No pun intended. But to Jonathan Quick's credit, he bounced back, having a decent year last year. But Cal Peterson at some point is going to have to grab the reins and show that he's worthy of the investment the Kings have made in him. I don't think he's done that so far, in my opinion. A couple other signings to mention on, what was the date here? June 29th of 2022, the Kings signed Kevin Fiala to a 7-year, $55.125 million extension, making $7.87 million per season. Certainly a very significant investment by the LA Kings now and in the future. But this is a guy who's 26 years old, is coming off a career year, 33 goals, 52 assists for 85 points past season with Minnesota. And then he comes over in the trade from Minnesota for his rights, and then the Kings sign him to the big deal. Again, we talked about this before. We'll see how it ends up in, year 5. We'll see where Kevin Fiala is. But in the moment right now, Rob Blake went out and addressed the Kings' biggest need in the offseason, signing Kevin Fiala to play on the top line left wing. And I think it's a great signing for the LA Kings. Certainly, he's the guy that was in demand, and you needed to pay something significant to him to get him to agree to stay with the Kings and sign with the Kings. They did that, and hopefully things work out. I like the signing of Kevin Fiala. And one other one to mention, this was on July 8th of 2022. the Kings signed Adrian Kempe to a 4-year, $22 million extension, making $5.5 million per season. A career year this past year for Adrian Kempe finally blossomed. They were patient with him in the organization. They put him on the top line, and he certainly blossomed and played well. 26 years old. We think the best hockey for Adrian Kempe is going forward. Another solid signing for Rob Blake. So when you add it all together, the Alex Iafallo signing is a little bit questionable. The Cal Peterson signing a little bit questionable, but everything else, honestly, Ilya Kovalchuk wasn't, it wasn't great. But everything else, I think, has been very solid for Rob Blake. Just like what I talked about with the trades that he's made since taking over as general manager. You add it all together, and the grade that I gave him for the trades is the same grade I'll give him for the signings that he's made so far. And we'll even throw in Todd McCullough in there as well, hiring him as head coach. A solid B to B plus for Rob Blake. I've been extremely happy as a Kings fan with the moves that he's made, the trades and the signings. I think Rob Blake has done a very good job. And I know a lot of people were worried when he got hired by Luc Robitaille. Was he just hiring his buddy? Are the Kings just taking care of a guy who was a Hall of Famer for him, and so on and so forth? I think he learned in his time under Dean Lombardi. He's put his own stamp on the team in the rebuild, making moves to ship out some tough decisions and some in the veteran contracts, bringing in the young guys, acquiring assets, and so on and so forth. So I personally think Rob Blake's done a great job so far in his tenure as Kings general manager. If you guys want to chime in on that, if you have any differing opinions that you want to chime in or you want to agree, whatever your thoughts are as well, I welcome your feedback. The email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, lockedoneddie@gmail.com. Hey, I want to tell you about a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because when you get to be my age, and I am 52, you need a little bit more energy sometimes. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food, sourced superfoods, probiotics, and antigens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, focus, recovery, aging. AG1 contains less than 1 gram of sugar, and it costs you less than $3 a day. It's cheaper than your morning coffee habit or your after-work brew, and you're investing in your health. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews. It's even recommended by professional athletes. Now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water, and that's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So it is August 9th, 2022, as I am recording this in the evening on Tuesday. Did you know that 34 years ago, the LA Kings traded for Wayne Gretzky? 1988, I was a senior in high school, and the LA Kings traded for Wayne Gretzky. Obviously, it was a momentous day in the history of the Los Angeles Kings, a landmark day in the history of the NHL. I will admittedly tell you that I wasn't a big Kings fan at the time, but Wayne Gretzky's arrival in Los Angeles opened my eyes to the National Hockey League and the Kings. And it made me got my attention. I was a huge sports fan as a kid growing up, and again, I wasn't following hockey that closely. But when Wayne Gretzky came to LA, I was like, "What is this all about? How could this guy in pretty much the prime of his career get traded?" And they had just won the Stanley Cup in Edmonton. This is crazy. How could this happen? And certainly was the talk of the hockey world, in a lot of ways, the talk of the sports world. And Wayne Gretzky coming to LA, I mean, you can make the argument that it's the biggest thing that's ever happened in the history of the LA Kings. You could certainly make the argument that the 2 Stanley Cup titles were huge as well. And maybe those were even bigger than Wayne Gretzky, but his impact on hockey in Southern California is beyond measure. The interest he generated in the Kings and in the sport goes without saying. It was such a smart move by the Kings at the time to understand the market, to understand the importance of having superstars in Los Angeles. I mean, you had the LA Lakers and all the stars that they had, making them must-see TV in a place where obviously the entertainment industry is so big, making the Kings cool. To have Wayne Gretzky on the roster was very important in in the popularity of the LA Kings going forward. I mean, it really put them on the map, not only in LA but in all the hockey world. And it obviously was just, it can't be understated. It was a huge, huge moment in the history of the Los Angeles Kings, and again, an anniversary for the LA Kings. I still remember when I really got to be a hardcore Kings fan when Wayne Gretzky pretty much led him to the Stanley Cup final. He had been hurt most of that year, but he came back for the playoffs. And I still very vividly remember his hat trick in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals at Maple Leaf Gardens against Toronto. Still, I think he had said that's the greatest game he's ever played. I know one of his great regrets was that he never was able to bring the Stanley Cup back to Los Angeles while he was here. But again, Wayne Gretzky laying the foundation for the LA Kings really kind of moving forward as a brand in Los Angeles. And it was just a huge moment in the history of the LA Kings. So happy anniversary, Wayne Gretzky trade for the LA Kings. And certainly his impact, not just with the Kings, but in hockey out West. A lot of people credit him for the popularity, and now there's an Anaheim Ducks, now there's a San Jose Sharks, now there's an Arizona Coyotes, so on and so forth. And that led to your Golden Knights in Vegas and your Seattle Kraken. So Wayne Gretzky, not only a huge anniversary for the LA Kings, but for hockey on the West Coast in general. And if you're a little bit younger fan and you're like, oh, I'd like to know more about that, there are a couple of great documentaries out there you can watch. ESPN did a 30 for 30 on this. It was called King's Ransom. And also, I know there's one called A Day That Changed the Game, which I know it's on YouTube. You can watch it right now if you're interested. You should go check that out. But a great anniversary for the LA Kings. On this day in 1988, Wayne Gretzky traded to the LA Kings. I play beer league hockey, and sometimes when I want to go play, I need a little energy, but I don't want to eat a meal. So I need a little something to give me a boost. And when I need that, I reach for a Built Bar, especially the new cookie dough chunk puff Built Bar. It is real chocolate cookie dough chunks covered in 100% real chocolate. Now, you think that can't be good for you, but you're wrong. Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Why not eat something that tastes good and is good for you? Go to Built.com and get a box for yourself, whether you need a snack for a workout, late night treat, or just a quick bite. Built is the perfect protein bar that tastes better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built Bar. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, that is LOCKED15 at Built.com. We had the opening day of the World Junior Championships in Edmonton earlier today, and I mentioned that we're keeping an eye on Team Finland because we've got a couple of LA Kings prospects playing for them. They played their first game of the tournament today and rolled over Latvia by a score of 5-1. Kings prospect Kasper Simon-Tavel, he had a third-round pick in 2020. He had a secondary assist on the fourth goal for Finland. That was his only point of the game. And teammate and fellow forward Samuel Helenius, second-round pick of the Kings in 2021, was held off the score sheet. But those are two guys we're going to keep track of going forward at the World Junior Championships. Also tomorrow on Wednesday, LA Kings prospect Helge Grans, second-round pick in 2020, will be patrolling the blue line for Team Sweden as they face Latvia as well. That's going to be at 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you want to watch any of these games, they're all being broadcast on the NHL Network. And as I understand it, I haven't seen it, but I'm told they're streaming on Fubo TV, and Sling TV as well. Keep up to date on this show and what's going on with the LA Kings. Please follow us on Twitter. We are at Locked On LA Kings. If you'd like to send me an email again about any comments about anything I've said, anything involving the Kings or anything else, I welcome your feedback, positive, negative, or whatever. LockedOnEddie at gmail.com, EDDIE, LockedOnEddie at gmail.com. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast of all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in hockey with Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. Thank you so much for listening and watching on YouTube to Locked On LA Kings. Really appreciate it. I'm Eddie Garcia, reminding you as always, go Kings go.